Dear friends, welcome to our Congress. Hello.
Thank you very much. Hello, good evening.
Hello. Hello. I wish everyone uh, is
Yes, I
hearing.
am Professor Desire
Yeah.
Nesgimana.
Hello.
Yes.
You are chairman,
Yes, I'm the chairman of this conference. So can we just start with your presentation?
of course.
Yes, please.
Let's start.
Yes, please. Go ahead, please. Okay, can you share your screen and we go ahead? Hello, Professor Ismail.
Yes, I'm
So,
here.
okay, can you share the screen and go ahead, please?
Mm, I don't see.
You can click on share. On the top right, there is an indication looking ahead, share. You can click on that one and then you will share your screen.
I don't see.
On
Just
the
a
top
minute.
right, on the top
Just
right of your screen, there are three signs. There is a camera, there is a microphone, and then a share with an indication looking up. If you click on that one,
not
you
not
can
not
share.
important. Not important. Uh, you're saying uh, enough.
Okay, good, good. Or may I just start with one of the papers?
Start, please.
Can I start with one of the papers?
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. Okay, do you see the screen? Yes, this
Yes.
paper.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to present this paper, and the title of my presentation is um, Consumerism and Sustainability, a critical analysis of the customer's culture from an ethical point of view. Consumerism is usually claimed to be a non-moral phenomenon, and the consumer culture and its underlying consuming mentality are usually seen as a grounding force of capitalism and not necessarily linked to any moral concern. And my presentation here will show the ethical links between consumerism and ethics and make some normative proposals to these ethical concern lanes. What is consumerism first? How do we define it? The word consumerism can have two different meanings. The first one, it can refer to a globally oriented economic movement whose goal focuses is to promote and protect the right and the freedom of consumers. That's the first meaning. The second meaning is that consumerism refers to a phenomenon which is linked to the modern society in its economic and the social aspect. And this phenomenon was influenced by the processes of industrialization and its underlying commoditization, and is fundamentally characterized by massive consumption of produced goods and services. Then my analysis here will be concerned with this second meaning of consumerism. So how do we then distinguish consumerism from mere consumption? Consumption is based on purchase and the use of goods and services. But consumerism goes beyond the mere consumption to pleasure seeking and pleasure satisfaction. For example, someone may travel to Nairobi for holidays from New York City and using a private jet as an alternative traveling by buying a first class ticket to make the same trip. Or someone may choose to hold 5 luxury cars just for the fun of it. And this actually goes beyond the need satisfaction of having a means of transport. So, and it links somehow on the idea of pleasure seeking, and also pleasure satisfaction. Then actually, consumerism actually is essentially a driving force of capitalism with the massive use of good, massive consumption of good and also services. And for instance, in 1555, Victor Lobo tried to portray what consumerism is and how actually it links with capitalism. He argues that an enormous reproductive economy demand that we make consumption as our way of life, that we convert the buying and the use of good into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfaction and our ego satisfaction in consumption. The measure of social status, of social acceptance, of prestige is now to be found in our consumptive terms. The greater the pressures upon individual to conform to safe and accepted social standard, the more does they tend to express his aspiration and his individuality in terms of what he wears, drives, eat, his home, his hobbies, etc. So we need things consumed, burned out, worn out, replaced, and discarded at a never increasing rate. So then consumerism and the consumer culture um, have some kind of interlinks and connection uh, to how people consume goods, and how the rate of consumption that people hold in their lives. And then consumerism transform a human relationship with the commodity and make commodities tools for individual self-expression in the society and in the outside world. And the commodities become a tool endowed with social meaning and also become externalization of social and economic status. So there is now some concerns which raises with a never consumption of greater consumption of water resources. It's the issue of sustainability of lifestyle. And actually, the basic ethical concerns here associated with how consumerism lead to unsustainable lifestyles. So, for instance, according to a report of Global Footprint Network, 2010, the human ecological footprint has already exceeded of 20% the productive capacity of the planet ecosystem that which can naturally be sustained. And actually, if there is an increase in global consumption of goods, we may come to the level which actually the ecosystem cannot be able to sustain human consumption. And this will be a very serious issue for humanity. In addition, if all people in the world come to reach and to live a certain lifestyle, like to take an example, like rich life American people or rich Emirati people, which these are the society which actually have a high level standard of life. If all the humanity come to live that of the level of rich Americans, of some rich people from Emirate state, we would need 5 planets earth resources to sustain the people's consumption need in the world. So this now this example shows how actually the issue of sustainability is a very serious concern. And if we don't know want if humanity does not manage to live a sustainable lifestyle and to continue to increase consumption, we may come to the rate on which it may be difficult for the world resources to sustain us. Okay, consumerism and then an ethical concern. Okay, what are the ethical concerns of consumerism? Consumerism may lead to consumption of on the rate the water sources on the level which leaves little to future generations. So when we massively consume resources, do we actually think of future generation needs? Okay, with massive consumption, we may come to the rate that there will may be an extinction of resources, and then future generation will have difficulties to survive. And the customized culture and associated practice contribute to the destruction of the environment as well, and to climate change. And we know actually the way you have industrial production is the key to the production of uh, carbon dioxide, which is at the foundation of global warming and climate change. That this actually is another ethical concern if actually global warming is human caused, and if the consumerism is also another element contributing to it. So conflict over resources is also another concern. This we have been seen in some areas, in various parts of the world, that actually there are conflicts linked to resources, and this is actually links also to consumerism because massive production of resources which are consumed, they need actually minerals and other basic sources to be produced. And then there is a link between conflict and wars with consumerism as well. So these are the key concerns, the ethical concern of consumerism. And from this point, we can find that consumerism is not totally free from moral concerns. And what are then the foundation of these ethical concerns? So the consequence of the current consumerism can affect the lives of people in the world, the future generation. This idea actually, which is stronger in this as this moral argument. Uh, and this will be linked to the possible extinction of critical resources that future generation will also need. And the possible increase of conflict and wars is also another key issue in moral and ethical concerns that actually the issue of consumerism brings to the light. So normative ground for promoting sustainable consumption is needed because we know that the world is a common source of good for humanity and can produce enough resources for everyone. So there should be then some policies which would help to ensure fair distribution of water resources and to ensure that the least disadvantaged, at least in the current world, can cover basic needs. And they set some taxes, if possible, we should find a way out this is a normative argumentation. We should set some global taxes for the protection of the environment, because actually the environment are the key protector, and this it should actually be protected. And we should also think of the protection of the future generation interest. Future generation will need resources, and some among the critical resources should be saved for the sake of future generation. And the solution should be thought out as well now on how to prevent the extinction of some critical resources, because there are some resources in the world which, if they are extinct, life will be difficult for the generation to come. And then if then we save the future generation and we ensure a fair distribution of resources, this will very much help actually to take care and solve the issue of ethical concern. As a way of conclusion, consumerism is not completely free from ethical concerns. Some ethical issues are actually associated with the issue of overconsumption of water resources. Why consumerism then lead to overconsumption of water resources? Our ecosystem is not able to replicate resources at the level of the current need of human consumption. And this is really a serious issue. If it continue to raise consumption while the world is not replicated, we should actually find a solution to that. Because it may be a serious problem for future generation. There is therefore a need for setting some global political policy to ensure fair distribution of the resources and take into account the concerns of need of the future generation. I thank you for your attention. Thank you very much. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Thank you. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your
too.
presentation.
Yes, thank you.
If you want your next presentation, we are ready. If you want, we are listening.
Okay, thank you. Let's just go ahead with the next presentation, and then we will finish with the presentation. Then perhaps have some series of questions and responses. This second presentation is concerned with shaping collective forms of expressing the ascent of common ground of social and political order, and it's a critical analysis of a critical review of Ronald Beina's book. In his critical civic religion, a dialogue in history of political philosophy, 2011, Ronald Beina analyzes the three forms of socio-political order, namely civil religion, theocracy, and liberalism. His philosophical investigation actually explored and analyzed philosophical thought and the position among different socio-political thinkers with an aim of seeking common ground for the three forms of socio-political orders. Beina's exploration, which is initiated as a dialogue in the history of socio-political thinkers, tended to be a struggle for possible common understanding between the social and the political order. In my presentation here, I will depart from Beina's analysis of three forms of socio-political orders in an effort to formulate a normative proposal for seeking for a collective assent on a common ground between social and political order. I will argue that religion is inevitably political, and hence a possible common assent between social and political order requires both a renewed outlook on religion in the political arena and for religions to develop a more integrative political theology which promotes collective responsible self-rule and reasonable public advocacy. So there is in the political theorizing, there are sometimes a claim that there is a certain form of antagonism between religion and politics. And then in the domain of political theorizing, religion and politics are usually interpreted as incarnating a certain relational antagonism. And such antagonism can be observed by analyzing how religion and politics are related within the three positions Bain explores here in his book, namely civil religion, theocracy, and liberalism. So how do we then distinguish civil religion, theocracy, and liberalism, and how these political this foundation related to politics and the religion? According to Bain, there is a unity of politics and religion, with religion subordinated to politics and political rule. In this case, we have civil religion. Civil religion, when there is a unity of politics and religion, with the religion subordinated to politics and to the political rule. And in this case, it's a civil religion. And when there is unity between politics and religion, but with politics subordinated to religion, and when the divine rule is considered as the ultimate source of political power, and the political leadership as a tool of materializing divine command, in this case, we have a theocracy. And when politics and religion are exercised independently of each other, and when the values of toleration and individual liberty and freedom allows the harmonious coexistence of different socio-political views and of the individual beliefs, in this case, we have liberalism. From then, what are the views of various philosophers on the relation between politics and religion, and which are actually analyzed in Bain's book? So, first we start with the civil religion. According to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, there is no sound politics without religions playing the role of guiding force. So, political state throughout history, according to Rousseau, have always been developed under the inspirational guidance of religion. So, for Rousseau, he considers religion as a positive contributor to the political order. And the central idea underlying civil religion is that religious authority can be a dangerous rival and a competing force to political authority. Hence, religion should be domesticated and put under the control of political order. In the civil religion context, then, conflicting authorities between politics and the religion can only be neutralized by subordinating religion to the political order. Religion then partially becomes a tool which serves political purposes. Then, for Niccolò Machiavelli, religious authority is a form of competing authority which should be undermined for political ends. And Hobbes also argued the same line like Machiavelli, that religion can be used to secure political ends by assuring the docility of the people to obey the political rule. So Hobbes believed that the people would not manage through themselves without a transcendental power which is obeyed beyond by everyone as a source of moral conduct. So under theocratic rule, leadership is exercised by human figures, but under the umbrella of transcendental authority of God. And for Joseph of Metz, who is actually a theocratic figure, which is analyzed in Bain's book, Metz finds himself unable to conceive a form of politics that are not theocratic. For Metz, every form of political order must essentially be theocratic. Then for Metz, theocracy and anarchy are the only possible alternative to any form of political order. So, and how should these various positions should be interpreted vis-a-vis the relation between the politics and religion? So, on analyzing how religion and politics are theoretically related in both theocracy and civil religion, one observes that the two forms of socio-political orders have an opposing perspectives regarding how religion and politics are subordinated to each other. While each civil religion subordinates religion to political authority, theocracy subordinates politics to divine authoritative rule. So, owing to the opposing then approaches in the two forms of political order, one may wonder whether these two pluralized positions can be reconciled in one common worldview, which can be materialized in a political society. The issue of conflicting authorities between religion and politics seems then to be the foundational basis of the polarization, which is the underlying philosophical views among the defenders of civil religion and also theocracy. Um, so, what about liberalism? Then, can liberalism be a viable alternative in solving the issue of the relationship between politics and religion? Liberalism comes as an alternative approach for relating the social and political order, but a resort to a separation model which fails to provide a middle ground for reconciling religion and politics. In a liberal society, politics and religion are claimed to be exercised independently of each other in a socio-political environment which is based on tolerance and other political views, mainly individual freedom and liberty. The state is expected to be religiously neutral and tolerant vis-a-vis religious pluralism. So, some of the critics which can be made vis-a-vis liberalism are that while liberalism proposes neutrality as a cornerstone for reconciling conflicting authorities between political and religious domains, it does not fully resolve the issue of relational and conflicting practical roles between politics and religion within a political society. For instance, in Rawls' liberal approach, Rawls is one of liberal thinkers who made a lot of research in the United States of America. According to him, liberal tolerance does not extend to allowing religious views to the public sphere, simply because, according to his views, religious views belong to the non-public, to the private domain, and a liberal state must ensure its religious neutrality. So liberalism doesn't help us to solve the issue of relation between politics and religion. So can liberalism at least reconcile the relation with politics and religion at a certain level? Liberalism seems to fall on the political side rather than keeping a neutral middle ground between political and religious domains. As a consequence, there are important challenges underlying the socio-political organization of the society in the three positions Beina discusses. And how should we understand the foundation of this problem between politics and religion? One of the main problems underlying the relation between social and political order is that the sphere of usefulness of religion. Religion is not only concerned with the life hereafter, but religion has always something to suggest as a guideline for people's lives here and now, both on individual and collective levels. For example, religion can have something to say about how to dress, how to eat, how to relate to authorities, how people should spend money, how they should treat their neighbors, or the form and the nature of legitimate authority and leadership, etc. So this makes religion inevitably political, and the political order tries to create some mechanisms for controlling religious influence in the public sphere, and this doesn't work. We need actually to find a common ground which can help to resolve this kind of antagonism. So, what is then my proposal? My proposal for concerning politics and religion in political order is this one. So that any approach which seek for common ground should consider mutual interaction between politics and religion rather than isolating religion from the political domain. And here, religion is essential political by virtue of its normative guidance of people's life choices. And in this regard, isolating religion from a public sphere may not be considered as a may be considered as a fundamentalist, as establishing religion and its doctrinal teachings as a political rule. So we don't go to one extreme from the other, but we find a common middle ground of resolving the issue, common understanding. Possible solution: the political domain should be grounded on an open toleration, which would allow to the public sphere all forms of views, including religious and non-religious, in order to test the political rule. And here, the political democratic form of the state, for instance. This can be tested by both faith and non-faith forms of reasoning. In addition, religious communities and the religious domination should be encouraged to develop a more integrative political theology, which prioritizes both individual and the collective responsible self-rule and a strong appeal to reasonable public advocacy. How can this proposed then approach create a common ground between social and political orders? Conflicting authorities between religion and politics is at the basis of their relational antagonism. At the center of social and political order, however, we have the people who are at the same time adapting different religious denominations and the owners of the constitution-making power. So given the fact that the religion plays an inspirational role in different forms of people's life choices, including political choices, there should be a form of a collective assent of expressing common understanding between political and social order, because the people who actually is the political entity where social and political values meet. Okay, we don't have to isolate the religion and the political choices, but they can work together because the people are at the center of these two. Therefore, the people as an individual and an individuated entity, they held the belief should be essential element for social political choice making. But here we presuppose that we have a democratic state form. So which normative guidance then should we keep in evaluating politics and religion in the public sphere? Public reasoning should be guided by normative commitment from both a social and political side. On the one hand, religion and the religious communities should develop a more integrative political theology, which prioritizes both individual and the collective responsible self-rule, and a strong appeal to reasonable public advocacy. This would allow people, believers and non-believers, the same, to find a reasonable ground of mutual understanding and agreement without necessarily appealing to revelation. On the other hand, public reason should be based on a form of extended toleration, which allows all forms of views, political and religious and non-religious as well, to public deliberations in order to test political policies and the principles from both faith and non-faith perspectives. I thank you for your attention. I thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. See you the next Congress, inshallah. See you.
Yes. Thank you very much. See you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.